At best, the alien abduction phenomenon is a terrifying, traumatic experience. At its worst, well, we think they sometimes take people and don't put them back.
I lost my mother and brother to this trauma. He murdered her, then killed himself.
These women are being used as human incubators, with all their children stolen away into the night.
A 6-foot-tall entity of blue-white light paralyzed me, then bent down and said into my ear, "Hi, Steve." It knew my name.
We hear gruesome stories of experiments and dissections. Imagine dying on a metal table while paralyzed, surrounded by alien faces. It's a real horror story. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our show, Abductions 101, UFOs, and the Paranormal Connection. My name is Leslie Shaw.
Hi, I'm Stephen Shaw.
Tonight's show is our season-ending show, and it's going to be a two-parter. So we're going to have just part one tonight. And we decided to make a chronicle of all of our strange experiences in case the men in black kick in our door and kill us. So we thought that might be important. I don't know.
Honestly, Leslie, I've been waiting for this for a couple of months because I firmly believe that our audience doesn't have a clean or clear grasp on just how important this information that they're about to hear really is.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
So I was going to start with this quote out of this is our book, by the way. Oh, I have to put it in front of me so you can see. Yeah, the green screen is killing it. But,
and here is our Spanish.
The Spanish edition, which you can also not see clearly. So.
Yeah, but okay, it's out too.
Because of our green screen.
Nice translation.
But I was going to read one paragraph out of it. For the last 4 generations, Stephen's family has been in contact with an entity called Ole Glegley. Ole Glegley communicates with the family via automatic writing. Almost all the women in this branch of the family, going back to Stephen's great-grandmother, have been automatic writers. And Ole Glegley is the family spirit guide with whom they communicated.
Yes, and to also to let the audience know, Ole Glegley does at times manifest physically. Okay,
sorry,
and we'll deal with that a little bit later if you stick around for it. Okay.
Sorry, I dropped the book on the floor. What was that sound? Anyway, tell us a little bit, Stephen, about your family history and a little bit more about Ole Glegley, please.
Okay, well, my family bloodline comes from England, Scotland, Ireland. I know because I just did my 23andMe. And my grandparents also came from Germany. That hasn't been determined yet, but we know where the bloodline comes from. It's very much Northern European, okay? And so anyway, so my parents grew up in wartime England, World War II, in the northern part of England, Manchester and Oldham. We moved over here. My parents did in 1956. I was born in 60. And I'm one of those unusual people that can remember back to about 1.5 years of age.
And about your grandmother?
My grandmother? My grandmother on my mother's side was an automatic writer. She learned it from her grandmother, the Newmans.
Where did they live?
They lived in Manchester and Oldham, England, okay, which is northern England, a big industrial part.
And your great-grandparents were the ones that immigrated?
Yes, great-grandparents. I'm sure that there was some Scottish, and there was definitely some Newman is a Germanic background name. Okay. So anyways, what I know about my great-grandparents is that they were the ones that we've been able to trace so far that were in touch with this entity called Ole Glegley. Okay. Ole Glegley, like I say, was primarily contacting and staying in touch with the women of the family, primarily through automatic writing, but also manifested on many different occasions physically.
He would appear, right?
He'd appear as the same type of figure, about 6.5 feet tall. Okay.
Please excuse me, everyone.
It's the nature of a podcast. Let's put it that way. Okay, so
I've got a cough drop in now. So
yes, so not just not just to the women, but also to the men. if the circumstance was dire enough, like with my uncle post World War II in Ceylon.
This is your Uncle Doug.
My Uncle Douglas, yes. Mm-hmm. Which we'll get to later.
No, this is when we're talking about.
You want to talk about now?
Doug,
okay. Yeah. Douglas was a brilliant man. Okay. I'll just tell you that. He was well-spoken. He served in the Royal Air Force post-World War II. He wasn't quite old enough to be in World War II. So anyway, he was. They were billeted in Ceylon, which is now Sri Lanka. Let's say about 1948, 49. And he told me this story to my dad and I when I was about 15. And, he knew about the tales of Ole Glegley. Maybe he didn't necessarily believe, but he'd heard about Ole Glegley. And so anyways, in the middle of the night, he was stationed with a bunch of other officers in a 40-man tent. Okay. And he was awakened by this tall, dark, 6.5 foot tall figure wearing a red fez, just appeared out of nowhere and said, "Douglas, you have to get out of your cot. You may be killed. There is a group coming through and they have bayonets and guns." And so he knew what Ole Glegley looked like. He'd heard about that. And he just, this entity appeared and then just disappeared. So he got out of his cot, went out of the tent, and sure enough, about a minute or two later, a group of rebels or a invading party came through and with guns and bayonets and killed several of the officers. So he recanted this story. And I thought this was a really interesting story, but he believed it so much. And this was, he made a lot of money in real estate, okay, and in escrow, okay. He was not a man for flights of fancy. So anyway, so when his daughter turned 17, he bought her a nice white Triumph. This is 1976, 77. And guess what the license plate was, Leslie?
Ole Glegley.
Ole Glegley. Okay. So somebody who comes up, in a very, very conservative Great Britain, been in the military, decides to get a vanity plate for his only daughter, and it's Ole Glegley.
The family spirit guy, yes.
Yes, because it saved his life, and because by association he was married to my mother's older sister, he was part of the Roe Shaw family, and his surname was Griffiths. Okay. So,
and didn't your aunt and he discover the name, what the name Ole Glegley actually means?
Yeah, they also were big time travelers because they had money. Okay.
Right.
And so they were in Tunisia of all places, just traveling around that area. And they were, having some fun in a bar or whatever. And they found out just by that, the name Ole Glegley, at least in Tunisian, translates roughly to my friend. Okay. Or old friend. And, in Old English, Ole means old. Okay.
Yeah, it's like OLE apostrophe, old,
yeah.
Their version of old.
And he was by far not the only one that's seen Ole Glegley. I have, my brother has, my mother, grandparents. Okay, so
we will get into a few of
we'll
those.
get all into that. But people who stick around. Okay.
But beginning with your personal contact.
Yeah, my first.
Tell us about age 3.
Age 3, well, I can remember back to age 1.5 because I went to Montessori. And because I was so sick, every day of my life until the age of 2 when I had my tonsils and adenoids removed on my second birthday. So I kind of remember, very, very, traumatic experiences going back to 1.5. So anyway, what I recall at the age of 3, I started to get visited in the middle of the night by this invisible 2-footed entity that would literally jump on my stomach and my chest and kind of playfully, just kind of like playing with me. You think, oh, it's your mother tickling you or whatever in the middle of the night, but I was awake, and it was this entity was just jumping on me. Invisible entity was just jumping, and they come to visit me from time to time.
You sure it couldn't have been a 2-handed alien that was invisible that's going, "Who's the baby? Who's the baby?"
It was literally rebounding. It was literally rebounding off of me. Actually, it was like literally hitting my auric or my astral field and kind of like jumping off of me. Kind of thing.
Well,
it was very specific. I thought about it many times, but it was so. Anyways, that was at 3, and that would happen a number of times.
And then both you and Philip, your brother, his younger brother Philip, experienced when the aliens abduct people, especially children. I think they like to make the memories. They tamper with memories with practically everyone. And with children, especially, they like to make the memory of something friendly.
You'd want to make it pleasant. You wouldn't want to make it scary. We would do the same thing.
So I think this experience that Philip and Stephen both had separate years, different times. I think this is where
it's an example.
The garden gnomes come from. So
it's an example of being less threatening. Okay, when I turned 8, I was sleeping in the top of the bunk bed. My brother was 6 years younger than me, so he was sleeping in the bottom. He was just at the age where he could start sleeping in a bed, around about 2 years of age. So anyways, I remember distinctly, I woke up and I looked from down the bed and looked through the doorway, and the doorway was open. There was a little light on in the kitchen, so there was always illumination coming into the room, right? And there were these 4 or 5 little, about maybe 1 foot tall, garden gnomes. You just consider them to be like a Disney type garden gnome.
You said like they had the little colorful clothing.
They had the hats on, and they were shimmery.
And the little pointy hats and stuff.
Well, they were kind of pointy, yes. And it was shimmery, and they were like walking in slowly. They were looking around, and I cleared my eyes. I looked at them for like 5, 6, 7 seconds at least, and then they noticed that I saw them, and they kind of just looked at me. And then I kind of lost my nerve, and I turned over on my left side and just tried to think, they're not there. They're not there.
So it felt more menacing when they were staring at you?
It felt like I wasn't supposed to see them. Okay. Yeah. And this was 1968, maybe the very early 1969. So we didn't have a TV in our room. We only had like a black and white TV in the living room. So this wasn't like
it wasn't the Smurfs, right?
It wasn't today's age. There were no such thing as Smurfs that, at least on TV at that point. So anyways, when my brother turned.
Before you get into that, I wanted to, you've described to me before their mannerism, and I'd like you to do that now. If you would.
They were curious. They were looking around, from what I recall from seeing them.
So they were kind of just scanning around the room or something? Or?
They weren't looking up to start with. They were like walking in kind of slowly, not like, like in a Disney film. They were just basically assessing things. Okay. And so just basically matter of fact, and then they noticed that I noticed them, and they looked at me and just kind of locked eyes, and then I just lost my nerve.
All right. Then go into what you were saying about Philip.
Okay, so when Philip turned the age of 8, he started sleeping in our closet. And he did that for a full 2 years. Okay. At least 2 years. Okay. And I just thought, that it was like some kind of phase he was going through, or maybe, he had trouble wetting the bed or something like that. So anyways, I asked him on a couple of occasions, I said, Philip, why are you sleeping in the closet? And he didn't know about the little guys. I don't think I ever told him about the little men, but he said, I'm afraid of the little men who come at night. So he saw them more than once. Okay. Because he is on the bottom bunk. Okay. I was on the top. So anyway, so when he told me that, it's like, ding, a light went off. Okay. All right. So he's the same age I was, and he's seeing the same thing. All right. And I kind of put it aside for a while growing up, going to school. I didn't think much of it, but I made a notation. I said, okay, that's why Philip, sleeping there. And, we grew up in a family where my mom was a psychic and an automatic writer, and these things were dealt with in a different way than most people would deal with things. You kind of deal with them as part of your natural life, as far as your family life.
Yeah.
Okay. And also when we get further into this, I'm going to let people know why these things happened to me and how they occurred, and I'm going to give people some things that will help if you decide to go down this route. Okay.
And then your next encounter was, in my mind, the first time that you remember something that was for sure, in my opinion, an alien abduction. This experience has the hallmarks of the alien abduction phenomenon.
Right.
At the end, sorry to spoil the end, but at the end of whatever weirdness you see or experience, generally you black out and there's a big section of missing time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If we would ever been able to successfully regress Stephen, which we have yet to do, the mental block in his case is pretty firmly in place,
Yeah, you're talking about the hallway, right?
Then I think the hallway incident. I think we would then find out that during these blackout periods, he's been on a ship and he's had the same experience as some of the people who've been regressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this happened in 1969. probably January, February of 69. So I was still very young. I was born in 60, so you can kind of do the math.
And it was winter, you say.
Yeah. So anyway, I was again in the bunk bed, and I heard this weird sound coming from the living room. And I knew it wasn't the dog. Okay. I knew the sound of the dog and my parents and all that, my sister, my brother. And I was curious, I'm a young kid. So I got quietly out of the bunk bed and I started walking on the hallway. And I remember distinctly, number one, getting out of bed, and also my heart was pounding and my blood pressure was up. And I was literally kind of afraid of what I was going to see. It's almost like I'm going to see something I've seen before or I don't want to see. Okay. So I was going down the hallway and I was about to turn the corner to go into the living room, and I just black out with no memory what happened between the blackout and somehow getting back into bed, tucked in, or basically with my covers on me, right? And this was like a few hours later. Okay. So it was just like one of these things I just chalked up to another strange thing. And I certainly didn't tell my friends at school, at the age of nine years old, like, that, hey, I'm missing time, or, it's like, it's hard enough to do school as it is, so.
I thought it was very telling that you don't lose your memory until just the moment before you're going to see something.
Mm-hmm. It's the hallmark. 99% of the time. There are a few people that are able to
remember the whole incident.
Remember, yes, right.
For instance, Karen Wilkinson.
She's a good example.
She was one of our guests, and she says that she was able to, her personality has the ability to disassociate and kind of back away from reality enough and kind of be a viewer of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
that came with time.
Yeah, people who have that ability, of course, they usually remember their abductions.
And sometimes our cousins, as we call them, try to recruit them.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
right.
As starseeds. We think starseeds are abductees who have been put to this weird breeding program that people are experiencing. We think they impregnate you, take your baby, and introduce you to your baby, and then at that point try and recruit you for their breeding program, so that you do it voluntarily. Karen said no, but they still used her that way. It's not like it just means they don't use you as much, I think, or as a willing participant. They don't use you as a willing.
Well, they were trying to get her to. They were trying to teach her how to fly.
They tried to get her to be willing.
But they did use her. They did use her as an incubator. That's for sure.
They sure did, at least 4 times, and possibly more.
And she's paid a very, very high physical and emotional toll. Very good book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, Karen Wilkinson. So that was Stephen's hallway incident, but it was just a few years later, that he saw his first UFO. Oh, yes, 1973.
And you recently looked this up on that. We found a new
UFOnetwork.com. Yeah.
What?
UFO Network /sightings. UFOnetwork.com/sightings.
Where they've compiled a very large list of UFO sightings and where and maps and.
There were a lot that happened from the early 70s to the late 70s, and the Woodland Hills, Reseda area of, San Fernando Valley of Southern California. And they were seeing the same
kind of UFO that Stephen was seeing.
Well, there were several. There were a few different kinds, but the first one that I saw definitely happened sometime in the late winter of 1973, which means I still would have been 12. And it was about 9:00 at night. And there was just this large orange globe that was going from south to north horizontally at an even pace. And just I'd say maybe it was like no more than half a mile to a mile away. And it was maybe a few hundred feet in the air. And it was just going at a steady speed. And then it stopped, kind of almost like it recognized that I saw it. And then it continued on. Okay, and I called Griffiths Park Observatory the next night and let them know what I had seen, and they said, well, young man, we don't have our telescopes, aimed in that direction, so they were of no help. But, I just put it up for like something maybe that I had seen. Well, my friend Paul Solomon that we had on our show not long ago that I went to junior high and high school with, been out of touch for a while. But anyways, he relayed to me a sighting that happened, broad day sighting that happened at Hughes Junior High School in Woodland Hills at about 1:00 in the afternoon over the PE field. And you were talking about 30, 12 to 13-year-old junior high school boys that saw this for almost 45 minutes, and all the PE teachers. In fact, I'm reaching out to people that, if you went to Hughes Junior High School, please get back to us about this. So anyways.
Now, this was your high school?
This junior high school, yes.
But you were absent that week.
Yeah, we were building a house up in Sonora, California. So it was around Easter vacation. So we would commonly take a week off, and I would go up there, help build the house with my parents.
Right. So you'd have the week of vacation plus a week extra, and to get 2 weeks worth of work done.
Yeah, that's what we did. That's how we rolled.
So, and the weird thing is when he came back after this incident had happened, it wasn't just buzzing all over the school. You'd think it would have been nothing but that talked about, but actually it was very well kind of quashed.
This incident, he described it as a black boomerang shaped UFO that was only a couple hundred feet off the ground, that was literally doing circles around the PE field.
He said it kind of tracked the perimeter
of the PE field
and going higher every single time. So almost like in a squarish spiral up.
Yeah. It was a sunny day. There wasn't wind. The PE teachers all went to get their Polaroids because that's what they had at the time in 1973. They took pictures. And, the other thing that's really interesting is these are 12 to 13-year-old boys, right, that are sitting on the tarmac watching this thing for 45 to 48 minutes, not saying anything. Okay, they're just watching it. They're not saying, can we go and run on the field? Can we play soccer? Can we play football? They're just watching this
kind of mesmerized by it. And we think that this may be another kind of Zimbabwe incident where the kids were influenced by an alien mind. It was very strange. Like I said, that the next day it should have been all a buzz and nothing else talked about for weeks, probably, right?
A lot of these things.
He hadn't heard about it till he got in touch with Paul Solomon
a week in junior high school time is a long time. Okay, so it is. It's like now I understand that. Okay, like
somebody would have mentioned it though.
For instance, only a couple years later at the Reseda Drive-In, on a Friday or a Saturday night, I can't recall.
They saw Orange Globe. I thought it was the Tarzana Drive-In.
No, it was Reseda. I looked it up. It was
sorry.
Reseda. Yeah, it was. They didn't have. It was the Reseda one.
I misremembered. Sorry.
So yeah, these things were happening a lot in that area. I mean,
at this time frame, yeah.
I've looked it up. You can look it up too. There, and you just keep in mind too that maybe 5 or 10% of them, especially from that time period, actually got reported. Okay. It's like they frequently do not get reported. I never reported. To UFO Network about what I saw in 1973. I never reported that. I did call Griffith Park, but I never actually reported it. But, it was plain as day.
So we did a podcast on this about, 8, 9 podcasts ago. And so it's on our YouTube channel.
Right.
At Abductions 101. If you want to hear the have Paul, which was one of the witnesses, relate the experience to you. But this, I feel, is a really important experience that we have to delve into further. Like I say, the Zimbabwe incident was well documented and well examined, but this one has just been quashed and hushed up ever since. And we really want, if anyone knows about this incident or has any anything you can tell us about it, we'd appreciate contacting us on our Instagram at leslie.shaw.author and just direct message us there.
Oh, and the typical behavior, some of the behavior patterns of UFOs. Number one, it was silent, no means of propulsion, things such as that. And it was certainly not a kite. It wasn't behaving at all like a kite. Number one, it was too big. And it was there for too long. It wasn't buffeting around. It was keeping its same shape and form. It was literally, like I say, it happened during the same time frame, almost, within a week or so of when I saw mine. Okay. It was, again, like I say, where Rocketdyne was maybe like 10 miles away, 10 miles away. So, in the mountains of Box Canyon area. So, we were used to like hearing rockets go off and sometimes seeing, missiles and that kind of stuff. But this was totally different.
Yeah. And Rocketdyne might have been the reason you were seeing so many UFOs in the area.
Right. Mm-hmm.
They may have been kind of scoping us out and keeping tabs on our rocketry.
It's a very common association. Very common.
Indeed.
So what's next?
What's next? The Catalina ghost incident is next on the list. I love this one. Shoot.
We don't have the
pamphlet.
No, it's we don't have it with us. We don't.
It's like right up there.
We don't.
Okay, we don't.
I took it out there in the other room.
In the other room. Shoot.
Yeah. No, we don't.
Well, I have graphics that I'll put up at this part of the show. You'll see the graphics.
Yeah. My dad was a master cabinet maker and builder. Okay, trained in England, and we got this job through Vic Christ, who owned the Hollings House in Catalina, the town of Avalon.
It's called Hollings Hill.
Hollings Hill House, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he bought it to renovate it, because he had the money. So he hired us to redo the cupola and the downstairs kitchen, and other stuff like that. So this was the July of 1976. I was still just barely 15. I mean, I was not quite 16, so I was 15. And so anyway, my dad was working on the cupola, which is like the upstairs covering.
It's like a pointy, almost like a turret,
right.
Castle turret.
It's kind of like a rounded turret. Okay.
Yeah, conical shape.
Right. So anyway, I was working on the downstairs kitchen and redoing the cabinets. Anyway, make a long story short, I was very much into listening to my music. Being a musician, lifelong musician. I was listening to the tape of Chicago's. One of the greatest hits. It was one of the greatest hits, right? It was Feeling Stronger Every Day. Happened to be the one that I was listening to. And so anyways, this was like noontime. It was a partially overcast day, but it was during the day, right? So anyways, I just working and I get this feeling and I look to the side door, which is maybe 20 feet away. And there is this woman upright that walks past the side door and dressed in what I call old-timey type clothes, looked black and white, actually, in a sense. And she just had this old-style hairdo, and she was probably maybe in her 60s. And she kind of gave me this look, as she was kind of like, she wasn't walking like this type of thing. No, she just kind of gliding, kind of gliding by her. And she gave me this look like what the heck are you listening to?
Like a stink eye look, right?
What are you doing to my kitchen?
What are you doing to my kitchen cabinet?
And so, and then she just kind of walked by, and then she was gone. And so I got up right away. I said, this is private property. So I just went to go see who is this? Is she like somebody who lives here, or like, it's not supposed to be on the property? So it took me maybe a couple seconds to get up and go to the back door and go out. And there's no place for her to hide. There was no secret doors. There was no like big forest. It was basically open. Yeah. It was just open, right? And so, I told my dad about it.
I just remembered, dear, it's the Holly Hill House.
The Holly Hill House. Okay.
And
became the Christ House.
We looked up this lady that Stephen saw, though. So go ahead and tell him that.
No, we did this a couple years ago now.
We did some research on it.
Yeah, because I've been curious about that. Since we started doing the show, I've been curious because it was something that I really saw.
And the history of the house is sort of interesting. The man who built it, he had a fiancée
in the 1880s.
And he was expecting to have her join him there. But she bailed on the marriage and the house, therefore, and he became kind of a woman hater. He actually wouldn't let women on the property, and it was very strange. He never married, and
he got big time jilted.
So in this case, there was really no women living at the house for any length of time until it was in the 20s, I believe. It was purchased by the Hollingsworth family.
Hollingsworth.
And they bought it because of the holly around the house. They thought it was pretty, and it was like their name, Hollings.
The Giddings and the Hollingsworth.
Yeah, her name at the time was Giddings because she had married Mr. Giddings, but her maiden name was Hollings.
Her maiden name was Hollingsworth.
And she came from old Pasadena family.
Old money.
And this was their summer cottage.
And it was that for
This
a long
beautiful
time
Queen Anne-
until she died in 1959, I believe it was.
55, I think.
55?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she was big in the music community in Avalon. Avalon has this big opera house, and she was very involved in it.
If you ever see pictures of Catalina, you'll see
this big
the
opera house there.
It's in every picture.
And in a lot of the pictures, you can see the Queen Anne mansion up on the hill.
Which is the Giddings, the Christ house.
The Holly Hill house.
Right.
Later, this Christ gentleman bought it from this Kriss fellow. This was his last
Christ,
name. Bought it, and then it was the Christ house after that. But from the 20s to the 50s, it was the Holly house. And this woman, she was the only one living there for any real appreciable time. I believe Christ's wife was still alive, so she wasn't a ghost at that point.
Well, Barbara, yes, she wasn't involved.
She wasn't a ghost. And then we did some research and found out this woman wrote a book in Pasadena. And we managed to find the book, and we found a scan of the inside cover. And sure enough, there was her picture.
When I saw it, it was like, oh my God.
That's her.
That was her. It was strange. Let me put it that way, because it just my photograph of her in my mind, as far as what she looked like, was her. Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's like I was lucky to be able to see a full day daytime
full body apparition. Yeah,
that's right.
Basically walking, gliding by the back door.
Yeah. When you're young and your chi is strong, you're going to see more stuff. So.
I would like to point out that I don't know if everyone would have seen it. Stephen comes from a very psychic family. What can I say? All of them just seem to be a psychic bunch, especially his mother, but even his father too. His father had a psychic experience. Would that be a good time to talk about Duchess? And
we could. I mean, it's as good a time as any. I wasn't going to talk about, but go ahead. Okay.
You tell it. It's,
I went to El Camino High School in Woodland Hills. Okay, and I would take my bike and just ride home for lunch. In fact, I frequently did that. This was 1977. This would have been springtime of 77, and we had this dog called Duchess, a Doberman mix. She was very sensitive herself. She would know if you're making fun of her or teasing her. She was very sensitive, right? So, anyways, my dad was very close with our animals, like we all were. So he was a cabinet maker, like I said. So he was going to go on a job, for a customer. So he'd gotten his truck and he was getting on the freeway, and he just got this overwhelming feeling that he had to go back. Something wasn't right. So this was like about 11 o'clock, 11:15 in the morning. So he got off the freeway, which is a big pain in the butt. Okay. And he went back home because he felt something wasn't right. And he walked in the house, and there was blood all over the floor. Okay, and in the kitchen, and Duchess wasn't around. So he looked, and he saw that the back glass door had been broken. Okay, she had jumped at the single pane glass, and she had just cut her inner thigh, and she was bleeding from a vein. Luckily, it wasn't an artery, right? But it was blood all over the place. So what he did, he picked her up, and we had the vet, Dr. Thomas.
I was so lucky.
Which was literally a quarter mile away. Okay?
Like at the end of the block.
So he picked her up, tried to stop the bleeding, and then took her to the vet, right? So when I came home, probably maybe 10 or 15 minutes later on my bike, my dad's truck is there. My dad's truck isn't there, okay? My dad's truck isn't there, so I didn't expect him to be home, which he wasn't. But when I walked in, there was this blood all over the place, and there was the broken pane of glass. So I put two and two together real quick. I thought, Duchess isn't here. My dad isn't here. He must have taken her to the vet. Yeah. The only thing I could think of. So I got on my bike, went down to the vet, and sure enough, he put her into surgery and saved her life. But he said, he just got this. He just had this feeling. There was no logical reason for him to turn around apart from that. And he had these feelings too about animals in the past.
So the family in general, on both sides of the family.
My mom was riddled with it. My dad had it.
Definitely more on the mother's side. But that one story about Jeffrey and the dog made me realize it's on both sides of the family. It really is.
And my mom also too. We'll talk about my mom also too when she knew her mom and her dad and Uncle Clifford. You know.
Now, this part of the show, you wanted to talk about your Tai Chi and your astral projection.
Oh yeah, right. I started studying Tai Chi at the age of 17, and I also started studying, taking, reading books on astral projection. And I was very healthy. I did a lot of running, and I was very fit. And I worked with my family, my dad, physically a lot. So, and I came from stock, Scottish and English stock and Irish stock. So, and my mom being a automatic writer that knew uncanny things about that, there's no way she could have known about things like, anyway.
The death of a family members were frequently reported.
Three different times where she got contacted by Ole Glegley. I remember specifically.
And then like the 2 days later, the official word would arrive that that family member indeed had died.
But my point is that the studying of Tai Chi and being a musician, and studying astral projection are very important pieces to the puzzle for being able to do these things, being able to do astral projection.
They're necessary to expanded consciousness.
They're necessary tools.
Yeah. We studied with the Gnostics for a while, and I learned a bit of it too. But it is necessary, according to the Gnostics, it's necessary for the spiritual evolution of any ascended being. If you want to become a guru, a master, one of these things, you need to learn how to astral project.
And believe it or not, writing in cursive, as science has evolved. I can attest to this for a fact. In 1981, when I was 21, I took this course called Imagineering. And this was being taught commonly at Fortune 500 companies, where they would teach their executives to basically to have better intuition and be able to basically be better at getting things accomplished, making like a list of things to do, things that you get paid for, either doing things that are like going to a job, or if you do extracurricular things, you get paid more. And what you do, you make a notation in your journal written in cursive just before you go to sleep about how much you made, and this pre-planned script. And what they found since then is that writing in cursive accesses the alpha state, a deep alpha state. So when you're trying to learn or to enhance these abilities like intuition or astral projection or whatever it may be, it's imperative that you learn to write in cursive, and you do it as you're programming your subconscious mind before you go to sleep.
I didn't know this. I thought, and I think I do think it's kind of hysterical that cursive writing has become like a secret code that seniors can use.
Oh yeah, and also too the other thing as we get more and more sophisticated, quote unquote sophisticated, right? They're finding that children, especially around before the age of 5, that if you want to be able to get them to encode information, they need to be read from a book, or they need to touch a book, or they need to read from a book. They do not encode information at the developmental ages from a computer screen anywhere near.
Or a TV or something.
No, you have to actually read, because it slows down the brain, puts you again, guess what, into that alpha state. You basically are in the book. You have to put yourself in
when you read a book, you really are in it.
You have to engage your imagination, your creative thinking, your imagination. This is imperative.
Well, let's get on, moving on to, I want to hear about the time where you came out of your body while you were doing Tai Chi. You said your arms or something?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, yeah. The teachings of Tai Chi talk about how, like the reverse cosmic stance, where I won't do it here because I'm on the air, but you basically hold your hands in front of you, like at chest level, like you're holding a ball.
A ball on your stomach.
So their palms are facing each other, and you're resting your arms, your elbows, you're in a horse stance, and you're resting them as if you're resting your arms on a globe. So they call it holding the moon, resting your arms on the earth or on the sun, whichever way you want to look at it. So when you get really good at pulling the chi up the spine, from the feet, up the back, which is the Du channel, down from the top of the head, down the Ren channel, and breathing through the nose only, inhales and exhales with the reverse breathing. What you do, you get the chi to be stimulated, and you will feel it, okay? Especially when you're young and you're unpolluted relatively, right? And after doing this on a rainy day for 2.5 hours and doing some stuff seated, I literally had the ball where it was there. It was physically there. You could actually feel it. The air was crackly too. And my arms, I was standing in a horse stance and my arms were literally resting. The chi got so stimulated, my arms were actually resting on this globe. I could stand in that horse stance forever if I wanted to. It was fantastic. Then I went to do a seated stance and do the same thing. I could feel, literally, they say that you're supposed to feel like the chi stimulated like hot water bubbling slowly up your arms. And son of a gun, if I didn't feel it on both, and it came up slowly, made the ball, and then I just, because I'd been studying astral projection before that, I had a couple experiences before that consciously during the day. So I let my head turn to the right, but my physical head stayed here. But the astral head turned and looked to the side, and then I just did the same thing to the left side. And I was just like thinking, wow, this is really cool. You know, I'm 17 years of age, right? So I'm still a young skull full of mush. So I'm still trying to figure this stuff out. But the thing, what was the greatest thing, the revelation for me was that the teachings my teacher was teaching us in class and the teachings I was reading about were absolutely true. You have to put in the work. That's the thing. People can say, I can see auras, right? All right. Well, do you practice it all the time? How do you turn it on? How do you turn it off? Yeah, I've had some really interesting things happen, really powerful things. They're repeatable if you practice.
Yep. Sorry, darling.
No, you want to hear about my mom's, why I knew that she wasn't faking about automatic writing?
All right, let's hear it.
Well, again, 9 years old. So, 1969 was an important year for me. Of course, it's space, landing too, right? But Apollo 11. But anyways, my mom picked me up from elementary school at like around 2:00 in the afternoon, whatever. And she was just crying. She was just bawling. And I said, "Mommy, what's wrong?" And she said, "Well, my mother just died." Well, I knew her mother because I had been in England in 1967 for the summer with her and my sister and brother, and they had been over the year before, so I knew Grandma Eve, and I said, "Well, she's in England. How do you know?" Because we had a telephone, but she said she just died. I got contacted. I went into a trance. Ole Glegley contacted me, told me that your mother had just fallen down the cobblestone stairs and died from a hip fracture. So she knew the specifics, right? And when my dad came home from work, my mom told my dad. My dad, of course, at first he was thinking, "Well, are you sure?" He said, "Well, you haven't had a phone call." He says, "No, I was contacted." So anyways, about 24 hours later, we got a call from England, and it was confirmed that she died from complications from a hip fracture. Okay, so that was the first one. Okay, so I knew anyways. My mom was not a liar. Okay, all right. If anything else, she was like too serious. You know that. So anyways, the second time was when a couple years later, her father died, also in England, and it was the same kind of thing. She knew that he died in his chair, smoking his pipe, and that's what happened. And then when Uncle Clifford, a number of years later, same kind of thing. So, she on many occasions, it was, and I tried automatic writing myself for a short period of time. And she told her I was doing automatic writing when I was 18. And she said, "Stop doing that. Don't do it." And I didn't like it. I felt like it was very invasive.
You're almost possessed, really.
You have to give up some of your self-control.
Yeah. That must be scary.
And I was writing with my right hand instead of my left hand too.
That's odd. He's left-handed.
It was. So anyway, so I do my channeling through music. When I create music, I'll channel through music.
So Stephen, speaking of automatic writing, tell me how Karen got involved with it.
Oh yeah, that's very important. Yeah, it seems that Ole Glegley, our our contact, let's put it this way, that's been with the family for 4 generations, always seems to have one person to be able to contact through. It was my mother, of course, when I was growing up, and before that, it was her mother and then grandmother and such. So Karen was very reluctant to do automatic writing, of course. She never wanted to, but once my mom died in that horrible murder-suicide, she felt almost compelled to, number one, find out kind of what was going on, and she felt drawn to it. And when she first started doing the automatic writing, she said she complained of like having a lot of headaches, and it was very uncomfortable for her. And so she's living with her husband in northern England, and she does it on a regular basis. And they're also, by the way, they're semi-professional ghost hunters.
Yeah, ghostly locations. We actually did a podcast on them.
Yeah, they've done quite a few castles and things such as that. And they've actually caught some pretty compelling information and evidence on their spirit boxes and things such as that.
Mary Queen of Scots, actually. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, several things.
So let's get into the Big Five.
The Big Five.
Yeah, this abduction phenomenon sometimes comes in clusters.
Yeah.
And Stephen's family had this weird 5 nights. We're not sure if it was 5 straight nights, or just 5 nights in a week. But it was
5 straight nights.
They were all clustered together, real tight. And it's just that last one. You weren't sure if it was the very next day or the day after.
Yes.
that.
Okay.
But so.
Regardless.
And then Philip had his own cluster, and we'll get into that next season. You know?
Right. Oh, yeah. Also, too, we wanted to show the Holly Hill house photograph at some point. Too.
Oh, right. We did find this pamphlet thing.
Yeah, we did happen to have it. So
yeah, I put the graphic up, of course, but
yeah, we want to show the audience the picture of the house.
So yeah, this is the pamphlet.
Okay. That's the front of the pamphlet,
and this is the house from
way
this
back,
is black and white from a distance.
Yeah, before the Wrigley house was, the Wrigley mansion was put up behind it. The Wrigley mansion is also a very famous house.
Yeah, when it was first built, it was the big house on the hill, and then
we also have a color picture
and
of
then later it was
this pamphlet that was made for the house.
And we certainly do, but I did have it up a moment ago. I wanted to show it
in relationship to the harbor.
This is the this is the house in relation to the harbor, the harbor view, and just across this bay is where they eventually made that opera house that we were talking about. Yeah.
Yes. For people that have seen Avalon, it's quite distinctive. It seems to be in almost all the pictures. Oh, here we go.
And then Stephen, on this page, you can see the mansion itself there.
And also the kitchen.
And the kitchen, which is where Stephen was working when he saw the ghost. I'm going to get a little tighter.
That's a good shot of it.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm tilted wrong.
That's good. That's good right there.
All right. Well, now let's get into the Big Five, though.
Right.
So the first night begin at the beginning.
Okay. The time frame is mid-January of 1979. I am still 18 years of age. My dad and I are cabinet makers, and we have our shop at our house. Okay, my dad was trained in England. He's the master cabinet maker. And my sister, who was 13 at the time, was living with us. And my mom and my brother were living at the house that we were building ourselves up in Sonora, California, 350 miles away in the foothills of the Sierras. So he was going to school there. He was 12. And my mom they were like, they call them pioneers. The house was only partially built. So anyways, the first night, my dad came to breakfast in the morning about 7:30, and he said, Stephen, my closet doors opened and closed on me last night. And, myself just thinking, oh, well, that was a great dream, Dad. I wasn't thinking too much of it. So told my sister, and she went to school and we went to work. Didn't think much about it. Now, the next night, incidentally, this is when I've been studying Tai Chi now for about like a year and a half. And I was also very much into Paramahansa Yogananda's works. I was reading his metaphysical meditations, and this little pamphlet, little booklet, and I said, this is really cool stuff. So I decided, my dad might enjoy this. So about 9:00 at night, I went into the living room and said, Dad, you should really read some of this stuff. It's really compelling. And so I went back to my room, and then about half an hour later, my dad came into my bedroom and said, I must be going crazy. I'm hearing bells in the wall. And I said, really? Okay. So I went into the living room, and it's about 9:30 at night. And sure enough, there was a very distinctive silver bell being rung inside the wall next to the fireplace, inside the 2x4 wall, going ding, ding, just like the song Silver Bells, you know? You can tell what a silver bell sounds like, right? So we
have
know
this pure sound.
very pure. Yes, it's almost angelic in a way. So anyway, so we were puzzled. So we asked my sister to come in, and first thing she says, she said, "Where's that bell coming from?" So she heard it before she got into the, all the way into the living room. And so of course we do the same thing. We look up the chimney flue, we bang on the wall, try and make heads or tails out of it. This went on for a good close to 10 minutes. Okay. And then it stopped. And so then we ended up going to bed. Didn't think too much about it until the next morning when we called my mom, because, we're a family that was separated because of circumstances. And so we just would always say, how's it going, before my brother had to go to school. And my mom said, the funniest thing happened last night. It was about 9:00 at night, and I was sitting by close to the phone, and I heard this bell ringing, and I thought it was the phone, and I picked up the phone, and I was trying to have a conversation, and there was this male voice, a baritone voice on the other end, that said something to the effect of, "I am the invisible Beachy." It could have been Ole Glegley, because she was half asleep, but she distinctly heard the bell going off at exactly the same
weird
time.
Male voice.
350 miles away. And I asked my brother, I got my brother on the phone, and I said, because he was in the room too.
Yeah.
Because again, it was like a house that was in progress, so there weren't a lot of bedrooms at the time. So anyway, so I said, "Philip, did you hear a bell?" He said, "No, I didn't hear a bell, but Mom definitely picked the phone, and she was trying to have her conversation." So important for the audience to realize that this is the same phenomena happening in two places at the same time, 350 miles apart.
Right.
Okay. So the next night, I am sleeping in my bed, on the bottom of the bed, not on the bunk at that point, and I was awakened by this whoosh, 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 kind of a whizzing sound 3 times in the air. Sound like it was coming from the hallway. So I rolled over and I looked down the hallway from the bed, and there was always like a light on in the kitchen, which was at the end of the hallway. And so I could always kind of see the hallway partially illuminated. So I didn't see anything there. Again, I'm just trying to think at this point, well, maybe I heard something. Maybe it was a fan, right? So then I rolled over onto my left side, which is facing the wall, and then a very distinctive, gentle 2 pushes from the base of the bed. Push, push. Growing up in Southern California, you think, oh, little tremor or earthquake, right? Trying to be logical about things, right? Not jump down the rabbit hole right away. Okay, so anyway, so I ignore it, okay? And then trying to go back to sleep, not asleep, and then push, push, a little stronger. And now I'm thinking, that's same amount of pushes, but a little stronger. And then I try to ignore it again. And then it's push, push, like wake up.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm definitely going back to sleep, but I don't know what's going to happen next. And then I get the tap, 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 right on the mid-deltoid on my right shoulder, because I'm laying left side down facing the wall. It's like a bony finger going tap, tap, tap. Now I'm scared and annoyed, thinking somebody's playing a trick on me, but it couldn't be my dad or my sister. They wouldn't do that. So anyways, I decided to confront it. So I roll over and I say, "What?" And I can see the shimmery type of thing in front of me. Okay. Kind of shimmery. And I look, and then I black out. I told my dad about it, and my sister at this point is wanting to have nothing to do with this stuff. She was at this point in her life, she'd rather be a born again Christian. She didn't want to have anything to do with Ole Glegley, spirit guides, any of that kind of stuff. So anyways, we had to go to work. So we went to work, and I'm thinking about it. But when it came to go to bed that night, I said, I'm not going to sleep in that bedroom, because these things are escalating. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen.
Yeah, I can't blame you there.
So I decided to go to bed in my work clothes, you know,
but not bed, but to the living room sofa.
Yes,
right?
I decided to sleep on the living room sofa.
Yeah.
Which to my right side was my upright piano, and then there's a playroom out there that with all our plants. So I went to get bed in my clothes because we're workmen, and I didn't have to go into a 3-piece suit or kind of thing like that. So anyway, I woke up at 5:30 in the morning, and I was sleeping face up. Okay, the front door was behind my head by about 20 feet. Okay, but I'm just it's January, and it's dark, of course. So I woke up and I was just thinking about what kind of music I was playing today, maybe some Emerson, Lake and Palmer or something like that, and on my piano. And it's too early to get up, so I'm just laying there. And from behind me, I can sense very, very clearly that this blue door opens where the front door is, and there's this being, this tall, 6.5 foot tall, skinny being standing there. Okay. And when it senses that I sense it float walks the distance from me, from the door, maybe in, say, 2 seconds, 1.5, 2 seconds.
Pretty fast then.
Yes. Now it's not walking, but it's float walking. Okay. But it's upright, and it brings all the blue white light, more blue than white, but it was blue white. And the interesting thing is that as it brings the blue white, it fills up the whole house, but the wall of light stops when it stops by my right side. It doesn't filter into the playroom. It stops with it. Okay.
To the front part of the house.
And as soon as
a wall of light.
As soon as it gets there to my right side where I can see the shape of it and kind of see the shape of its head.
Right.
The whole right side of my body is like switched off. It's like you basically take right down, bisect the center of my body, just all the right side of my nervous system just gets shut off. Okay, I'm completely aware. I can move my left side if I want, but I have like no sensation. It wasn't paralyzed. Very clear about this. It was just like they shut off the switch. The being bent down to my right side and whispered in my ear, not in my head, in my ear, said, "Hi, Steve." Just a very friendly whisper. Couldn't tell if it was male or female. And I'm thinking to myself, this is Ole Glegley. This is Ole Glegley that I've heard about since being a kid, like my Uncle Doug told me about, and my grandma and my mom and all this stuff. Said, I'm going to talk to Ole Glegley.
I remember you telling me you're like half excited and half scared.
Yeah, the thing was when that type of thing happens to you, it happens like in a very short period of time, and you've had this stuff happen before, you're not really sure what's going on. And half of me was like super, super curious, and the other half of me was saying, dude, you can't move. You are at whatever this thing's mercy. I hadn't heard of Ole Glegley ever like paralyzing or turning somebody's nervous system off, but that's certainly what happened to me. And so I want to talk to it. And it went on for maybe 5, maybe 10 seconds at the most. And I'm trying to decide, do I want to talk? Do I want to engage? And I'm trying to really get a full look at his face.
But you can't move that eye, right?
No. And then it unbends, very clearly unbends, and it goes back out the front door, and like a door shuts and it's gone. And then I black out. Told my dad, my sister and dad, we don't know what the frick is happening. It's just escalating, right? So anyway, so we still had to go to work, right? So anyways, 11:30 rolls around. It's lunchtime. My dad and I are both getting hungry. So I said, Dad, I'll just go and get us some food, So I reached in my right-hand side pocket of the pants I was wearing when this thing happened, right? And I pulled out the coins that I had, put them on the table, and I kid you not, all the coins were magnetic. I could pick up the coins by the edge, by the face. It didn't matter. I could pick them up by each other. Had a couple 6-penny nails in there too, which are not hard to, magnetize. But all these American coins from 1978, 79 or before were all magnetized. My dad could pick them up too. It wasn't just me. He could pick them up too. And I really regret at this time that I didn't
put them in a jar.
I didn't put them in a jar and just saved them. Okay. And I've only heard of
you
one
weren't thinking that you were going to write a book and have a UFO podcast later
18,
in life.
I was 18, but
Yeah.
we only heard of one incident where there's like this fence somewhere in the United States that's aluminum that's become like permanently magnetized because of some UFO.
Yeah.
So, anyways, this was physical proof.
And aluminum is not supposed to be a metal you can magnetize, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, and then of course that was all right. So, anyways, the next night, that night, I decided, well, what the hell's going to happen? So I might as well go back to sleep in my bedroom, right? And and this one I have no recollection of, but my father at breakfast, he said, in the middle of the night, I woke up, something woke me up, and I looked down the hallway from the bed, and I saw this doorway that was encompassing your bedroom door, because my bedroom door was open. I never really slept with it closed. My bedroom door was open. But anyways, there was this wall of blue-white light. And my dad, being an ex-cop from Great Britain, what's all this thing kind of thing, he decided that he was going to investigate. This is his son. What's going on here, right? So he was getting out of bed, and this voice inside his head, not a voice in his ear, but inside his head said, Jeffrey, just nothing to see here. It's all fine. Stephen's fine. Just go back to sleep. And that's what he did. And that's when, that was the last thing that happened. There was that set of 5 that happened. The weird thing is that my grandfather had died the year before, and we were, he died in England where he was born and raised, whatever, Harry Row. And so we, about a week after all these events finished, we got the settlement of the will through from England. So at the time, I was thinking that it was just my grandmother or grandfather that was, visiting me. But when we started putting everything together with Douglas, Uncle Doug, and in Ceylon and the other events, I know it wasn't my grandmother or grandfather, because Ole Glegley always appeared the same way. My grandfather became a little 4x4 because he was like 5 foot tall and 5 foot wide. So, but Ole Glegley is this tall, willowy being that has been with us and apparently is our handler.
Now, you distinctly you make a difference between when the alien spoke it to you and when it spoke to your father. In your case, it was you think it was a sound that it actually vocalized in your ear? It manifested physically, and it bent down, just like I'm talking to you right now. If you were laying down and somebody, bent down and just whispered into your ear, okay, physically whispered, not internally heard like a vocalization, physically whispered. And could you feel the breath? I guess you were.
I could feel the sensation. I knew that I could feel it in my ear. I could feel like a little. I could feel the vibrations coming into my ear, like somebody's
buzzing
speaking
in
to
the ear. Sound,
right. It's just very specific. Okay. And also too, the thing about it's not sleep paralysis because it was like a switch. I was turned off. Okay. Only one side. Very specific.
And did you try and move the left side at all?
Oh yeah, I could, but I was a little scared. I could feel I could move my fingers. I could move. Oh, sure. I mean, but half me couldn't move. So I was kind of like, in a sense, when half your nervous system is turned off, you still can't like get up and walk. Yeah. Okay. You can move half of your nervous system. I could blink my left eye if I wanted to. I could move my fingers, but I had no sense of anything with my right side, apart from that I knew it was like turned off the switch.
And as far as what we think happened, we think Stephen was abducted. And during his abduction, he was exposed to a very powerful electromagnetic field that caused the magnification of his coins. Yes. I can't think of any other explanation for that.
I don't know. We've talked to scientists and other people, and we really have gotten, okay, this phenomena occurred. This has occurred another place with the fence, and they seem to be linked to a UFO. Yeah. Mine is obviously linked to our cousins and a UFO. So there's two things that are in common. Both those events are in common. The difference is that it happened to me, to a physical being that was approached with non-metallic objects on their person. Okay. And it's very important for the audience to realize that this is a very unique situation to happen because it happened to all the members of the family, same time, simultaneously, two different areas of the country. 350 miles apart. Okay. And it had, physical manifestation with the coins. So this is different than a person just saying that they had this experience, whatever. And I had physical proof. I really, really wish now that we had saved those coins.
Yeah. I wish we had saved the device in your arm.
Right.
But we have to go. That's we're out of chronological order, though.
That's comes in chronological order. Yes.
So this is where we're going to end our season, and with a cliffhanger. What happens next in the Shaw household? Yeah,
That's right.
After 5 nights of paranormal activity, that went kind of quiet after that for a little while.
It's an evolving narrative, and there are a lot of things that happened within relative couple of years. I mean,
it seems like it frequently happens to your family in the winter. Activity seems to get busier in the winter somehow.
The darker times of the year.
Maybe that's why. Maybe it's just a matter
seems
of the light.
Be. Yeah. Not always, but seems to be primarily. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, have a wonderful few weeks, everyone. We're going to take a few weeks off. We're at Contact in the Desert this weekend.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Not this weekend, the end of this month. I apologize. It's May 28th through
June 2nd?
The Monday after. I think it's June 1st.
Okay.
And we're going to be there on the Monday, too, because that's where our booth is open then as well. So please come by if you're local or if you're not local and you want to just see one of the greatest UFO conventions in the world.
We're in the Esmeralda room?
We're in Esmeralda South.
Esmeralda South
is the wing that we're in. And we're ES 54. So we're table 54. And we'll hope to see you there. And remember that you can still catch our documentary on it's not on Roku any longer, but it is on
Tubi.
Apple TV, Tubi, Plex, Zumo, Relay, Fossum, and Fossum Documentary.
Yes.
So that's fun. It's called Who They Are. We highly recommend it. It had 400,000 views on YouTube. It was quite popular. So
within
and lots of good activity and good commentary on it too. So we highly recommend that. And if you have any questions, feel free to direct message us on our Instagram at leslie.shaw.author. And also, if you are an abductee yourself and you would like to tell your story, that's the same way to contact us. Contact us direct message.
Yeah, whenever I want to talk to Leslie, I just DM her. It's the easiest way these days. Why bother having a face-to-face conversation when you can just DM somebody?
That's a lie. We live in the same tiny home. We're in each other's armpits all the time.
I'm mostly allergic to technology, by the way.
Oh dear. Well, anyway, thank you for tuning in this season. We had a fantastic season.
We had some really great guests.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Foran of Strangeology, Lon Strickler of Phantoms and Monsters, Bennett Tanton.
Bennett Tanton, Mike Forrest, Joshua
Sisler, the two researchers researching those wonderful artifacts coming out of central Mexico, covered in aliens and Egyptian hieroglyphics.
And we continue to do our research, and the more we research, we find that as technology catches up, especially like with the Grok AI, it really underlines and backs up what we've been saying now for years.
Yeah, that's right. The more time goes by, our theories just get more and more solid.
That's right. Yeah. So we will definitely be able to talk about that at Contact in the Desert.
And we'll be back after Contact, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
TTFN.
Bye, everybody. Good evening. Are you wondering if the UFO phenomenon is real?
Are you wondering who is flying the UFOs in our skies?
Are you wondering if aliens are really abducting people?
Then you need to read this book.
The book is titled Who They Are and What They're Up To.
Find out the true identity of the aliens.
Learn a very brief history of the UFO cover-up.
Find out where the aliens are hiding.
Find out why our government is in league with them.
Learn about their bizarre hybrid breeding program.
Find out why their technology is 13,000 years ahead of ours.
The reference section of this book alone is worth the price.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw.
Now available on Amazon and coming soon in the Spanish and Czech languages.
And soon to be in English and Spanish audiobook.
With a new foreword by fellow author and abductee Karen Wilkinson.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw, now available on Amazon.